the moment situation, where I might just check in and say, well, your friend keeps suggesting all the games. Are you okay with that? Or, because they might be, are you okay with, or do you think it's your turn to pick which game you play next? Mm-hmm. Right? Everyone gets to pick their own color crayon. Your friend keeps picking your crayons for you, but you can pick your own crayons. That's your job to do. And I know you're very capable. So you can let your friend know, no, thank you. I'll pick my crayons this time. So sometimes you got to kind of coach them in having a voice and speaking up to these kind of stronger kids. But there's something attractive about these, prominent, let's call them prominent, in their social world, they have some status. And whether it's, boy, if only I was as powerful as them, or, but they seem to tolerate it, and they can go for that kind of status people. So again, I would just expose her to other people, teach her to have a voice, and let her know that she's got options.
We've heard that from other people, the whole idea of a frenemy. Is a frenemy a bad thing? Or is it two people? I mean, they're fighting, but they're also finding their place.
Yeah, I mean, they are practicing social relationships.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't avoid it, but it can be the teachable moment. What does a healthy friendship look like? What does the give and take of social living look like? We don't dominate one another. We need to speak up. We need to share. And so you've got this friend who is your training ground. Right. But I'm going to deal with my child. No, I'm not going to try to correct the bossiness. Now, don't get me wrong. If they're jumping on my couch, then I'm going to say, in our house, we don't jump on the couch, right? Like, I might be instructive like that.
Right.
I might stop a game if it looks like, hey, if we can't play nicely, let's move on to a different game. So I might coach like that. But I'm really just trying to empower my child to decide. But it's very common.
Another similar situation, my son is so competitive. He has to win or he pitches a fit. He's such a sore sport that it's costing him friendships now.
Yeah. Well, boy, so there's a couple things I want to say there. First of all, competitive kids. Sometimes we think about competitiveness as like literally like just, in this case, like sports and games. Right? To get the most basketball points or to get the most Monopoly money or whatever.
Right.
But competitive is more subtle too. Competitive is still about the idea that my ego, my self-perception of my worth is tied to some achievement or performance. That could be anything. That could be school grades. That could be, the kid that says, mommy, watch me. Who made the bigger cannonball splash? Or where everything has to be a comparator.
Right.
And anything that is a mistake is seen as like somehow being vulnerable and failing. So like life is exhausting for these kids because everything matters. If I didn't push the button in the elevator first, then if I'm not first and best, then I'm somehow failing and losing my worth.
Right.
It's exhausting. So this is about their mindset. This is about having a worldview that says, I have to constantly be proving myself in order to survive, to be successful. So you can see it's almost like oxygen they have to breathe. This isn't something that's going to go away in a second. But what we need to do is to change that mindset. And that's why a classic thing that you hear in parenting is separate the deed from the doer. You hear that, but I don't think parents really ingest what that means. Well, you're trying to separate. You, the child, are born worthy and you die worthy. And nowhere in between birth and death do you improve or decrease your worth. The fact that you're born made you a full, worthy human being, the same as everybody else. We're all worthy.
Full stop.
Full stop. You don't earn it, you don't lose it. It's not how you measure human worth.
Right.
And then you're going to go through life and you're going to get better at some things. You're going to learn to walk and talk and learn math and learn science and, make contributions to life. And those are skills and you get masterful, but it doesn't elevate you. It doesn't make you superior over other people.
Right.
And so the way parents inadvertently stimulate competition is, first of all, they're often competitive in their marriage. And they don't recognize it, but notice.
Okay.
Are you kind of a my way or the highway? Do you have to have, how do you solve fights? Who usually wins? Do you cooperate over decisions or do you get passive? So there's usually a competitive environment, or the home becomes a competitive environment because the parents praise. And a lot of homes are very, North American individualistic societies, we stimulate cooperation by ranking, judging, appraising, And so we're constantly giving feedback to kids. I was just watching this YouTube video of this little kid who's like maybe 2 or 3, not even really verbal. And they must have trained this kid in Montessori because they have like a little working kitchen. She pulls out some cucumbers. She uses a peeler. She chops them with a little slice. She puts them in a little dish. She eats them. She cleans up her dish. She puts the peelings in the garbage. Like, it's unbelievable. And the whole time the parents are watching, and she's sort of like looking but independent. But never once did they go, look at you peeling that cucumber. You did the water without spilling any of it. Like, we give this constant feedback to our kids. We're like, oh, look at you. Look at you. Oh. And like, how can they not get the message that your performance is being evaluated? Because it's like a bloody ticker tape parade behind everything they do all the time. So we very much appraise kids about everything they're doing. So they get this idea that you've got to achieve, you've got to be the best or whatever. And then of course, you overlay that to play, like sports that literally have point systems. And so here's a kid that's got this idea. My value, the way that I'm going to show you that I'm a good friend or that I'm important or that I'm significant, is I'm going to be the best at this sport. I'm going to win at everything. And so they think that they're doing it to assure their status, their place, their belonging. Good intention, but what ends up happening is they disenfranchise everybody because they're not a good playmate.
Right.
So first of all, we say stop praising kids. Stop with the judgment. Notice how much you give a judgmental, even though it's positive judgment, it's still praise.
Yes.
It's still this. Yeah, so we don't want that.
Stop with the ribbons for participation.
Yeah, I mean, everyone gets a ribbon. We got so into that don't hurt their self-esteem thing. It's not helpful. Now, I believe in encouragement. We talk about that as an Adlerian tenet about, you got more baskets in than last time. Your skill set's getting better with practice. That's all fine.
Yes.
But who cares about who wins? If you think about it, what's really matter is when you're really winning is when your friend wants to come back and play with you tomorrow.
Yeah.
The winning is playing longer. The winning is playing again. If you become a bad playmate, no one comes to play with you.
No.
You've lost.
Yeah.
So I think between the dropping of the praise, increasing the encouragement, and getting them to understand that the game is friendship. They don't need to impress their friend. They need to keep their friend.
Yes.
And so that means the give and take. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Who wants to play if you know every time you play they lose? Who's going to want that?
Yeah.
It's got to be sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's what keeps it interesting.
A few minutes left, and I'm going to sneak another one in.
Do it.
And this is a heavy one, so it's not necessarily one.
Heavy and answer quickly.
Yeah. I think my daughter is a lesbian. She has not come out, but her best friend seems too close. Now she wants a sleepover, and I don't know how to handle it. So a lot of information.
Yeah.
That should go into this, but unfortunately, I need something a little bit quicker.
Well, I mean, first of all, I hope the parent has given lots of messaging that they have no concern about whether or not their kid's sexual orientation. Right. So, and you have to, and those are the little things that you say, all through your parenting. Like when you grow up, if you find a partner, a guy or a gal, or like just comments like that. So they're like, by the time they're actually kind of wanting to come out, they're like, I've heard my parents talk about this. I know they're accepting. I know, like that's right.
That won't even be an issue.
Yeah. Right, so you've laid the groundwork for acceptance there. So I think you have to do that piece, and then I think kind of what's woven into this is like, like when two girls have a sleepover and they're just friends, then it's okay to say yes. But like if this was a boy and a girl situation, would I be allowing a sleepover? So there's a sexual activity piece that I'm reading between the lines in that question because she's asking about a sleepover.
Right.
The thing is, if she hasn't, she's going to come out at her own time. I don't think you can make that go any faster than somebody is ready to. And the truth is. When kids want to start being sexually active, they're going to find a way to do it. It doesn't necessarily need to be at a sleepover. It's going to be after school, in the parking lot. Like you're not stopping sexual exploration. It's going to progress. It's just where. So the more important thing is just have conversations about, you're never go farther than your little inner voice says that you're okay with, right? So it's really conversations about consent, which again, every parent should be having with their kid before they're in this. Because if they're in the moment, that's when parents are like, Mom, what do you think? Why are you mentioning this?
Yeah.
But, like if you start these conversations earlier, then they're less directed at them. They're more curiosity conversations.
Well, and we go through something like this, not exactly the same, but you know, having boy and girl twins, who are a minute apart, all of their friends, well, they have very different friend groups. When you invite a friend for a sleepover, you're in a situation where you're in a home with the opposite sex, and so we've dealt with those kinds of situations, and you just figure it out. You figure it out as it goes, and you trust and you value that what you have done and what you have created will allow for proper situations.
But we want to empower every child to be able to manage themselves in the various situations that they're going to get in life, versus trying to clean up life so that our child doesn't have to face situations.
Right.
You know, we want to prepare them, not protect them. That's the bottom line, and that's going to be the same with getting into, you know, upcoming sexual encounters. They need to be trained and prepared and ready for that, and that comes with our education. We can't say, I'm sorry, you're hitting pubescence. I'm going to now put you under house arrest.
But we'd like to.
At 21, we'll let you out again. Yeah,
that's right.
No, we have to. They need to be able to go speak up and advocate for themselves.
Few seconds. Your website has a wealth of information for parents.
Yes, there's blog posts, and which are all searchable. There's videos up there. I've got my podcast now, and there's the last episodes are there as well, and then all my links to my social handles. So I'm posting content all the time on social media as well, and engaging with parents in that format. So hop on over there and then follow me everywhere.
Very good. Yeah, everywhere.
Everywhere, including right here on Rogers TV.
Yes, very good. Nice way to end the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to be here with you. It's nice to be here with everyone at home, too. And until next time, we'll see you later. This has been The Parenting Show.
For more details.
You're watching Rogers TV. Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Alexander the Great!
I'm going to stay champion for a long time.
Ryan Ortega!
Volkanovski, you ready or not? I'm coming.
Valentina Shevchenko, the cold-blooded assassin.
She is a killer.
Lauren Murphy, second longest active winning streak in the division.
Nick Diaz has some of the best boxing in MMA and world-class jiu-jitsu.
Ruthless Robbie Lawler.
He wants to take your head off.
Welcome to the war.
This is Rogers TV. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone. This is ELXN21, the local results. I'm Debra Hutchison in the Rogers TV Durham studios. Well, after a mere 36 days of campaigning, the polls have closed. Canadians have made their choices, and all that's left is for the numbers to roll in. Tonight, we'll be with you here to watch as the Durham region numbers are revealed to us, whether there are any changes or whether it will be status quo. And hopefully it won't take too long before some of those numbers begin to roll in. We have been hearing reports of lineups, some delays. It could be days before we know the final numbers. And if it is really close between two candidates, well, Canadians will have to to play that waiting game. Here is a live shot from the Tribute Community Center in Oshawa. That is the site of the CPC election night headquarters, where CPC leader Aaron O'Toole, our Durham Riding incumbent, awaits with his family to watch as the numbers come in, and that is where he will be addressing Canadians later tonight. Our own Adam Dunphy is there. Let's go to him now. Adam?
Deb, we're at the Tribute Community Center in South Oshawa, which tonight plays host to the Conservative Party election night headquarters. We saw Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole arrive just around 8:10 tonight. Now, in normal times, the headquarters for the party on election night is bustling with activity, and of course, it still is tonight, but not going to be at the same level that you would normally see as the night moves on. Of course, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Now, this arena is the home of the Ontario Hockey League's Oshawa Generals. They won the Memorial Cup National Championship back in 2015, and tonight the Conservatives will be looking to do something similar and take control of government for the first time since back in 2015. Deb?
Thank you, Adam. For Adam, it always comes back to the OHL and the Oshawa Generals, doesn't it? Thanks so much. Well, you know, the party leaders sure paid their fair share of attention to Durham region throughout this short campaign. They made several visits here, starting with Aaron O'Toole back on, it was September 11th, actually, when he was here for a rally in Ashburn. He also stopped at the Whitby GO station. Let's take a look.
It's great to be back here in the Durham region. I'm very proud to represent the areas I grew up, Bowmanville and Port Perry, in Parliament, and I've worked hard to be an ethical leader focused on jobs and opportunity for families, an area of our country critical for our economic fight for the families, the small business owners who are worried about the future. So I think it's an exciting opportunity to have a kid from the 905 lead this great country.
You have 9 more days left until the election day. Can you tell us what the most challenging parts have been during this election and most inspiring parts during this election for yourself?
The most inspiring has just been meeting Canadians. I was in Mississauga yesterday, and people were coming up to me on the street saying, thank you. We need a plan for the future. We need a prime minister that actually follows through. And when strangers are coming up and saying they know about Canada's recovery plan, they like my track record of getting things done, that motivates me. I'm not here to represent a small group of interests and friends like Mr. Trudeau. I'm here to fight for all Canadians. I'm here to fight for another young girl or boy from Whitby or Bowmanville or Oshawa to be able to work hard, help others, and have the chance to lead, I think, the greatest country on earth. This is a privilege for me, which is why I'm going to be ethical and I'm going to be focused on Canadians, unlike the Prime Minister who has us in a pandemic election because he always focuses on himself. We need a change.
Then this passed to support his NDP candidates throughout Durham region, and at that point he was very critical of Justin Trudeau for what he said was his inaction in dealing with rising COVID numbers in Alberta. Here's what he had to say.
We're getting near the end of this campaign, and we just heard something from Mr. Trudeau recently, which I want to talk about. He was asked about what's going on in Alberta. In Alberta, it's really rough right now. For folks who don't know what's going on, things are really bad. The hospitals are being overrun. The fourth wave is hitting really hard. And asked about it, he said, oh, it's not my job. It's not my job to interfere. It's not my job to help out. It's not my job. You know what? If he doesn't think it's his job, maybe someone should replace him and do his job the right way. Because I think it is the job of a prime minister in a pandemic, in a crisis, to step up and help out the people any way I can. Right? He thinks it's not his job to deal with making sure our healthcare system is public and works for people and is there for people when they need it. We saw the people that were most hard hit by this pandemic were our loved ones, our seniors in long-term care. And we know that the worst conditions of care, clearly, unequivocally, were in the for-profit long-term care centers. And so he doesn't think it's his job to do anything about that. The worst pandemic that we've lived in our lifetime takes the lives of our seniors in for-profit care homes, and he thinks it's not his job? I think it is our job to end for-profit long-term care across our country. It is my job to protect seniors, to make sure people are put before profits, and that's why we're going to ensure that there's no more for-profit long-term care in our country. We're going to start with Rivera, which is owned by a federal agency. We're going to start there and make sure that every single long-term care home puts the care of their residents, of our loved ones, of our seniors first and foremost.
Now, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau actually made 2 stops in Durham region in the riding of Whitby in support of his incumbent there, Ryan Turnbull. We caught up with Trudeau with just 2 days left before people went to the ballot box when he stopped by a chip truck in Brooklyn.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you again.
How are you? What's your name? Tony. Hey, Tony. Who's this? This is Rocco. Rocco has autism, and we're here to thank you for putting the National Autism Strategy forward, and we hope that we can continue working with you guys and get it implemented and get people with autism the help that they need.
Well,
thank you very much.
No, it's a pleasure to meet you. We have some amazing MPs who've really been pushing on that to move forward, and we're going to continue to be there, and of course work with the provinces on delivery of healthcare and support. But that's it. There you go.
Ryan Turnbull has gone above and beyond to help out not just residents of Whitby, but all of Durham. So I want to give a big shout out to him for always helping the Durham crew when no one else would help us.
No, he is awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Sorry, Justin.
No, that's all good.
I'm
not getting in the way. Hey there. Hey, no, what's your name? Jeff. Order from Justin, I think we called ahead. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
There you are.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. I think we'll get a picture on the side. Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Ryan,
Thank
your
you very
poutine?
much.
Mine, excellent.
Great.
So, I need to know, what's your favorite song?
My favorite hip song?
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably Three Pistols.
Three Pistols?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
good
good.
choice. Good
Solid
choice.
rock. It's Tom Thompson on the on Canoe Lake. It's solid.
Yeah.
Solid.
What's your favorite album? What's your favorite album?
Oh, probably Fully Completely.
That's good
that's
choice,
the one
good
that
choice.
it's just solid.
Yeah,
But it's just
yeah.
it's really where we all
Yeah.
leaned in there. But it's hard to pick any one.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
It really is. Obvious
That's
choice.
a
It was
great
an obvious
thing.
choice.
It's just put a big smile on my face as I
Yeah.
knew we were coming this afternoon. So thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
It's just such a pleasure to be
Yeah.
here.
What kind of french fries did you get?
Oh, I got the poutine, man, because I'm a Quebecer. All right. Pleasure. Thank you all. Cheers with me.
Okay, as we mentioned, that it could take up to 4 days before we know, before all the numbers, all the ballots have been counted because of the mail-in votes. Once again, the leaders, party leaders paid a lot of attention to Durham region this campaign, making many visits. You know, one voter who did not support Justin Trudeau's bid for another term is Selina Caesar-Chavannes, the former Liberal MP for Whitby and the author of Can You Hear Me Now, through her support behind the Conservative candidate for Whitby, Malia Shahid. And we had the opportunity to speak with Selina Caesar-Chavannes earlier today. I guess I have to start by asking you, as a lifelong liberal, you've described yourself as being a liberal at heart. Why would you even consider voting Conservative?
Why? That is the biggest question. Why would someone like me, someone with multiple intersecting identities, consider voting Conservative? And, as I said in the interview that I did with Mercedes Stephenson, I don't think that we can continue to reward bad behavior. We've seen the Prime Minister, not only his treatment of various individuals, but a track record of saying, there's more to do, on reconciliation, on boiled water advisories, on so many different domestic issues that just didn't get finished within a 4-year majority mandate and a 2-year minority mandate. And at this point, I think this is a vanity project for the Prime Minister, calling an election during a fourth wave with the juxtaposition of Afghanistan. The behavior does not need to be rewarded. And it really was something that I struggled with. And I thought, if I'm going to put my hope and my vote into someone, it would be someone like Malia Shahid, who I knew had similar experiences to me. And last thing, when I won Whitby in 2015, I remember people saying, I'm conservative, Selena, but I'm trusting you with my vote. And that's what I decided to do in this election.
So this is more about Malia and you believing in her than it is maybe the Conservative Party?
Yes, to be quite honest, we know that Erin O'Toole, the Conservative Party, didn't have anything in their platform related to racial justice, which is important for me on an equity front. There are some parts of the platform that I thought were really missing, really lacking. And I know if there is someone who is strong within their government that is going to push on issues that are important, not just to people of color, but to the region in particular, that Malia Shahid will do that.
What was her reaction when she found out that you were giving her your vote?
Oh, she called and she was really just thankful. She was visibly sort of upset, not upset, but, elated and crying and joyful. And so I just wished her all the best.
So there's been a lot of talk about that, we're going to end up in another minority situation one way or the other. Do you think we're going to end up in another election 18 months down the road?
I hope not. As I said, I believe this was a vanity project for the Prime Minister. It was a lot about ego, trying to secure another majority. I think Canadians during a fourth wave, people who are having a challenge with the growing disparity, the price of everything has gone up. I just don't think Canadians want to go back to the polls and spend another set of hundreds of millions of dollars for an election. And I really hope that we could see what we saw during the last 2 years, which was a coalition government, which was governments working together, people working together for the better interests of Canadians during a pandemic. Right now, Canadians are frustrated. We're seeing it at hospitals, and not that I'm condoning that behavior, but we're seeing it at hospitals. We're seeing it on the election campaigns. And we're seeing it with everyday Canadians who were called heroes at the beginning of the pandemic, getting really frustrated right now with a number of issues. And I think adding insult to injury by having an election now and then another one in 18 months is not the leadership that Canada needs or wants at this moment.
Okay, and I have to ask you, finally, you knew this question was coming.
Return to the ring. I left a job that I really loved. I love serving the people of Whitby. And I would love to go back. In what capacity, in what form, you'll be surprised. But as I said during my 2015 election, the local news will have that news first.
Okay. And on that, Selena Caesar-Chavannes, we can't thank you enough for spending time with us. All the best.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Rogers TV Durham. I'm Debra Hutchison, and it is my honor to join you tonight as we wait for the numbers to roll in. The polls closed at 9:30. We are still waiting for our local numbers to pop up. They're starting to populate now, of course, out in the Atlantic provinces, and I've noticed a few numbers coming in from Quebec. So as we wait for our numbers to come in, you'll notice the riding numbers on the side of the screen and the national numbers, the party numbers along the bottom. Agreed to talk to us tonight.
Good evening, Deb. How are you?
Hi, Mayor Dan. How are you? Been a long day for you?
It has been, and I hope that you're doing well, and I know that you're getting ready for a long night, but it should be an interesting couple days anyways with this particular election. I'm really encouraged by the amount of people that are still online, those that are trying to cast a ballot, and I'm watching we're looking at maybe a 2 or 3 hour wait time. A lot of people said this is something important to me and I want to make sure that I cast my ballot. So that,
as a municipal mayor, talk to me about the relationship that a mayor has with our federal MPs, and does it really matter what party is in power? It's all about the relationship, is it not?
For federal side, that they sit on the government side. They're not in opposition. It also has a great deal of benefits when you have a member that is on the government side. It really helps be able to move some of the things that are really important to your community forward. We've seen that in the past. Durham has been blessed with many opportunities to be able to see our representatives sit on the government side. So it is important, but that personal relationship and making sure that your representative, both at the federal side or provincial side, that they're able to carry your message and your concerns forward in regards to your concern, your community, and make sure that they understand what your community is facing at this particular time. On the municipal side, we're here day in and day out, 365 days a year, equipped with the latest information, and that they truly understand what is impacting local communities. So it's really, really important you have a strong relationship with your representative, both on the federal and provincial side. But tonight we're talking, of course, on our federal election across Canada.
So as far as that relationship goes with the federal MPs, it's not just your Oshawa MP that you reach out to and try and explain your circumstances and what your needs are. You really work with MPs across the region, correct?
Yeah, and you work with MPs all across the country, matter of fact, and you work with the senators. If you have an opportunity to be able to connect with senators in the chamber, you want to make sure that they understand what you're facing. This is part of our job as local representatives, is to build relationships with those individuals that represent us at higher levels of government and make sure they truly understand what you're trying to accomplish, how they can help you, advocate in the right way, make sure they got a true pulse on your community. So it's really important that as an elected local representative, such as a mayor or a regional councillor or local councillor, having that relationship with your MPs and your MPPs goes a long way in regards to making sure that you are successful and making sure that they're equipped to be able to bring things to the floor that are impacting your community. A prime example is that we have time after time talked about not only our local economy, the auto industry, especially with the great city of Oshawa, but also we've been able to educate, inform, and lobby our government in regards to the opiate crisis that's hitting communities all across Canada. But our local opportunity to be able to talk about our local economy and getting them to be able to bring to the forefront issues that are impacting our local economy is so important. So having a relationship not only with your direct representatives, but representatives all across the country, those individuals get to know you. If you have representatives in the Senate, that helps also be able to get your message across. And as you know, Deb, former police chief of Durham Regional Police, Vern White, is one of our senators. So we're able to have constant contact and conversations with him. He's able to speak to other colleagues so that we have the opportunity to meet with them and then be able to express some of our concerns locally.
So did you vote today, Dan, or did you get out for the advanced polls and vote?
No, I always like to vote on election day. I think there's a part of it is I get nervous on that day, especially as a representative of the people here in Oshawa. So I do it on election day. It also gives me an opportunity to be able to thank the poll workers that are there. These individuals have dedicated their time to be able to serve Canadians, and I'm really proud of that. So I had an opportunity to go to a local faith community here in Oshawa and be able to cast my ballot. It gave me a chance to be able to not only say thank you to those that were working the polls, but also meet a lot of the constituents locally and to be able to connect with them. So it was busy tonight, but it was great to see good spirit in the line. People were happy to be there. It was great to be able to see a lot of young people that were in line tonight, and a lot of people that I thought, for one way or another, Deb, I thought that maybe, just maybe, this election, we wouldn't see the turnout that we would hope for when elections come around. But if you look at the lineups that are happening in the GTHA tonight, and the lineups that I have seen at our different polling stations, Canadians are in tonight.
Yeah, I'm one of those that takes advantage of the advanced polls, actually, and it was quick. It was in and out. When I went, it was at the beginning of the day, the beginning of the advanced poll period. So, it was really quick in and out.
It's been really interesting, Deb, too, to be able to hear what the concerns of Canadians are right now. And you look at locally, and I keep on pointing in where we're going in regards to the recovery of COVID, both personally in our personal lives and, of course, in our business life. And what does the economy look like moving forward? And a lot of people have a lot of uncertainties right now about what the future of Canada looks like through this COVID period of time. Let's hope that Canadians continue to do what they're doing really well, which is get vaccinated, wear a mask, wash your hands, abide by the rules of our healthcare professionals. But Canadians are also concerned about the future. They're concerned about jobs. They're concerned about the economy. They're concerned about affordability in their communities right now. A big part of the conversation that I saw happening across the country, of course, throughout this election time, was about housing and affordability, because it's not just here in the GTA. It's all across the country. People are finding it more and more difficult to be able to find affordable housing and affordable communities. So that was a big part of the conversation that was going on. And the recovery of the economy. Where's our economy going? How is it going to change dramatically? And affordability in regards to the next generation of leaders that are in our colleges and universities are still concerned about making ends meet. And that's been a big part of it. And of course, Deb, from leaders all across Canada that I've had an opportunity to speak with, all of us are facing the same thing, which is a huge impact on opiate and homelessness across this country. And that needs to be something that needs to be front and center with our government. We can no longer ignore it. We had a record number of deaths related to opiate overdose last year in Canada. Ontario, we saw a 60% increase on deaths. Close to 2,600 people lost their life related to opiate addiction here in Ontario. Over 6,000 since March of 2020 across Canada. It continues to grow. Every community is being impacted. But Canadians have a lot to have a conversation on. And I just hope, and I said this earlier on today, I hope that whoever ends up leading our government, I hope that all parties are able to come together to work on behalf of Canadians. If there's ever a time that we need all the parties to come together, Deb, it's right now. This is a really interesting time, a historical moment. And we cannot go into this divisive separation of politics. We need to be able to work together to be able to help Canadians deal with what we're facing right at this particular time. I'm calling on all members of all parties to work together once this parliament is elected and find a way. This campaign has seen some ugly sides to it. And it was so unusual for me to see it. And I don't know, Deb, you've got reporters out there. It's so unusual to see because this is not what Canadians usually do. Some Canadians found ways of being able to express themselves that were untraditional Canadians. So let's hope that everybody can come together.
Yeah, when you talk about this campaign, parts of it getting ugly, the one thing we've noticed is that there is an awful lot of anger out there for so many different reasons. Even the fact that we had to go to the polls, and you mentioned, you were calling on all elected representatives to come together and work together. There's also been some I guess, speculation that if we end up with a minority, either with the Liberals in power or the Conservatives in power, that we're going to end up 18 months down the road with yet another election. What do you say to that?
I really hope not. And I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed that the Prime Minister at the time dissolved Parliament and went to the polls. We had a lot of issues that we were facing. We were facing COVID, the fourth wave, coming out of the third wave, going what was going to happen with our economy. I just didn't think that we really needed to be there. Parliament was still working. It was only 2 years into the mandate election. That's a lot of money. You know, when I'm talking is we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. And so, you know, here's $600+ million for an election right now. I just thought that the parties could have worked together. We could have worked through this. We have a provincial election, of course, next year. Then we have our municipal election in October of next year. And I was really hoping that the federal government would be able to kind of hold it together, not go to the polls. And by the way, people don't, but you're right. There's a lot of fear of the unknown, the fear of what the economy looks like, the fear of holding on to my job, holding on to my business, what's going to happen with my kids and their future, what does our country look like moving forward. All of these things, huge discussion and debate in regards to masks and the regulations that are being brought in for COVID-19. There are those that are pro, those that are against. Some people feel it's infringed on their rights and freedoms. We've seen that expression across the country and across North America. So this has been a very turbulent time to be able to go to the public in regards to a federal election. And like I say, I was disappointed that the Prime Minister did call an election at this time, but I am pleased, again, when I see people at the polling stations tonight, people doing their civic duty of casting a ballot, when I hear about the long lines of people not getting discouraged, that talks to a great democracy. That talks about the great core of our...
Wouldn't it be nice if we saw the kind of lineups for a municipal election that we saw today for the federal one?
It'd be great. I mean, it's one of the things that we try to really talk about is, you know, municipal elections, municipal representatives play a significant role in your life on a daily basis. You know, we're the ones that are on the front lines. Even if we're not responsible for core services, those services as a municipal representative, you have an opportunity to reach out and speak to them on a daily basis. I know because I get the calls. But it saddens me when we only have 22, 23, 24% of eligible voters that come out and cast a ballot on our municipal elections. You know, this is one of the greatest democracies in the world, and this is a wonderful opportunity for people to express themselves. Now, Deb, I also have to say that it's part of our fault as representatives. Are we doing enough to engage people, a line of communication that gives us an opportunity to be able to encourage people that they can reach their local representatives, but they can also make sure that they express themselves? So, you know, as a municipal representatives, and I'm as much to blame as everybody else, we need to do a better job communicating. We need to have more of these opportunities to be able to speak to one another. We need a chance to debate the issues, people to get out and vote. I mean, you hear young people say, you know, I don't know if my vote really counts. Your vote does count. Your voice matters. You know, and it's really important debates. That comes down to having conversations with the local representatives. I love it that I have young people and people that call me all the time in the mayor's office. And, you know, I make it my duty to make sure that I call everybody back. And we have these conversations. Sometimes they're very uncomfortable conversations, but, you know, I hear it time and time again. I said, you took the time out to call me. I want to make sure that I call you directly. And I think that that's what we have to build on, Deb. If we're going to get more people out to cast a ballot, we have to do a better job of engaging our population. We have to give people an opportunity to be able to communicate. And you know what? As we go through COVID right now, that's part of the frustration. We can't have town hall meetings. We're not supposed to have large gatherings. People are uncomfortable opening their door to speak to you. So you take the chance when you're at the Oshawa Center, or if you're walking the trails, or you're you're downtown, or you're having dinner at one of our great restaurants, or you're at the hockey game. Get people an opportunity to give you a chance to be able to express what they're facing. And, you know, it's a great way of me making sure that the decisions that we're making are the right decisions. And especially on a night like tonight, that we're advocating for the right things, and that we're speaking to those representatives at a higher level of government to say, do you realize the decisions and the actions you're taking, this is the impact it's having on our. Listen, you stay well, and I'll send breakfast over for you later, okay?
Okay, it's a deal. Thanks so much, sir.
Take care.
You are watching Election 21, the local results here on Rogers TV Durham. I'm Debra Hutchison in the Rogers TV studio. Tonight we also have our cameras set up at the Tribute Communities Center in Oshawa. That has been turned into the Conservative Party election headquarters. Aaron O'Toole and his family are there watching as the numbers begin to trickle in. And we're hoping it won't be too much longer. We're seeing some numbers coming in now, but we've also got the ridings of the party leaders. That is Maxime Bernier's riding. Burnaby South, of course, is Jagmeet Singh's riding. Papineau, Justin Trudeau's riding. Quick break. We're going to just let the numbers start to roll in, and we'll be back with you shortly on Election 21, the local results. Don't go away. You are watching Election 21, the local results here on Rogers TV Durham. I'm Debra Hutchison here in the Rogers TV studio. So the numbers have started to, yes, I'm going to use that word again, trickle. I love that word, trickle, because that's exactly what's happening. Slowly but surely, we're starting to see the numbers come in. We will have the riding numbers displayed on the side of the screen, where the party national numbers will appear on the bottom of your screen. We are live tonight, coming to you from the Tribute Community Center that is serving as the Conservative Party election night headquarters, and our Adam Dunphy is standing by. Adam?
Joined now by Conservative strategist Jason Leader. And Jason, polls close across the country now. Results starting to trickle in the prairies and further west near Ontario. But let's start in Atlantic Canada. And some pickups, it looks like, so far for the Conservatives. Got to be happy for that. Was this expected or maybe more of a pleasant surprise?
I think optimistic. We're always optimistic that we're going to win a couple of more seats there. A couple in New Brunswick, a couple in Nova Scotia, maybe one in Labrador. That's, I think, a big sort of good sign for Mr. O'Toole as the night goes on. 10 points up in the popular vote and some more seats out there. It's a good start to the night.
And as I said, we're starting to see some more results trickle in. Where do you look to make gains across the country?
Yeah, so I mean, this election is going to be won or lost in the areas that we're sitting in right here, right? The 905 area around Toronto. So that's Brampton, Mississauga, Scarborough, Burlington, Oakville. These are the areas where if you're going to win a government, you've actually got to win those seats. In addition to that, you got to hold what you've got in BC, and you've got to win a little bit more in BC as well, and hope Mr. Trudeau loses a couple of seats.
Let's talk about places where the Conservatives are looking to hold tonight. Let's focus specifically on the prairies. There's been a lot made in the last week about the Alberta provincial response to COVID and a bit of a changing of how they're going to go about things now and how that would reflect maybe on the Conservative Party at the national level. Do you see that really having any effect on voters and maybe changing minds at all when it comes to voters out in Alberta in the prairies?
I like our chances in the prairies. I think we're going to win a lot of seats in Saskatchewan. I think we're going to win a lot of seats in Alberta. And I think, listen, the pandemic's been a very difficult thing. And I think Mr. O'Toole did a really good job of focusing the question on that, on Mr. Trudeau. If you were so concerned about the pandemic, why are we in an election right now? Very difficult issue. And I think the fact that we're in this pandemic election, I think none of us can really believe it. I can't believe it's almost over here.
I had sort of flown by. Time flies. Now, focusing on the party leader, Mr. O'Toole, that he is a local candidate here out in the Durham riding. He's up watching right now with his family. He was only voted the Conservative leader last year. Do you think that was enough time for him to really make a connection with Canadians?
Man, it's a great question. He was a virtual unknown a year ago. I mean, other than his own family, maybe a few people around here and in Durham region, not many Canadians really knew him. And I think they've been pleasantly surprised. The last time we had an election, Canadians looked at Mr. Trudeau and said, yeah, we're not so sure about you still, but we're not ready to hand it over to the Conservatives. So hopefully it's a different result here tonight. But Mr. O'Toole, I think he's acquitted himself very well. I think he's been a pleasant surprise for a lot of Conservatives. I've known him for a long time, and I've always known him to be a stand-up guy, and I think he ran a really, really good campaign that he could be proud of.
One area that the Conservatives could pick up seats is in the Durham region here. Right now, the breakdown of the 5 seats going into this election, 2 Conservative, 3 Liberals. Do you think having the party leader, not obviously in everyone's riding, but adjacent, do you think some support might bleed over and he might give a boost to the local Conservative candidates?
Hardly ever hurts. Hardly ever hurts. And the thing is, this kind of area, regardless, so number one, it can bleed over for sure. Mr. O'Toole's very high profile, and these are swing seats. When we win, we do well in them. So that's number one. Number two, these are seats that I think Mr. O'Toole has targeted because they're sort of blue collar, sort of working ethos. It's the kind of Conservative Party he's trying to build in terms of a Big Tent party. So I look for, a strong result here in Durham tonight.
And Jason, finally for you, obviously a very different election than, really we've ever seen with the amount of mail-in ballots. When do you expect you'll actually get to go home tonight?
That's a great question. I was thinking maybe, next Tuesday or something like that. Listen, this is going to be a long night. We're going to know whether or not it's close or not by 11 or 12 tonight. There's going to be 20 or 30 seats, I guarantee it, that are too close to call. Whether or not that makes a difference in the election or not, we won't know until, the end of the night. But we're really not going to know the final numbers probably for a week or two, to be honest.
Jason, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Back to you, Deb.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Thank you so much. You are watching Election 21, the local results on Rogers TV Durham. let's take a look at some of the advanced voting information that we have here. So, how many people took advantage of the advanced voting and the mail-in voting, and will that play into the numbers? Let's take a look. We've got some info boards here. So advanced voting for 2021, of course, the advanced polls were open from September the 10th to the 13th of September. And according to Elections Canada's preliminary figures, voting was up 18.46%, an increase over the advanced voting in the 2019 general election. And when we also talk about the mail-in ballots and who took advantage of that, and when they will begin counting that, if we could advance our graphics here, we'll show you that. So the voting kits issued to electors living in Canada, voting by mail, from inside their riding. Let's break down the number here. Pickering and Uxbridge, it was more than 4,000 voters took advanced voting, guys. That would be great. From inside your riding, which apparently they're not even going to begin counting those until tomorrow. However, there were those, next slide please, that got the mail-in ballots that live outside the country. They can be counted tonight. That's what we're told, and that's how it works. We also have some info boards here that I want to share with you. The results from the 2019 election. In case, let's take a look back at the results from 2019, and if we can hold it here on this slide, folks, while we go through it. So Colin, a whopping 57.7% of the vote. Aaron O'Toole, Durham, won with 42%. Ryan Turnbull, Whitby, Liberal, won with 43.7% of the vote, whereas Jennifer O'Connell, Pickering Uxbridge, the Liberal incumbent, once again, won with an impressive 51% of the vote. So I guess the question is, will the landscape change at all for Durham Region here in this election? The numbers have started to come in. There were, of course, delays and long lineups at some of the polling stations. You heard earlier our interview with Oshawa Mayor Dan Carter, who himself witnessed some of the long lineups, and that could account for some I guess, delays in getting you the numbers. But stay with us here as we get the numbers as they are provided to us. We'll share them with you. Let's go back to our number boards for a while. And welcome back to Election 21, the local results. I'm Debra Hutchison here in the Rogers TV Durham studios. So the numbers have started to come in. We have our own Adam Dunphy at the Tribute Community Center in downtown Oshawa, which is serving as the Conservative Party headquarters for election night. Let's go to him now.
Thanks, Deb. Joined by City TV's Melissa Duggan. And Melissa, we were expecting a long night with the amount of mail ballots out there. We were expecting, if we were going to hear something tonight, it was probably going to be after midnight. But yet here we are. City News has declared a Liberal win. I said I was not expecting this. How by surprise did this take you?
Well, yeah, I think if this was not a pandemic election in a pandemic venue right now, after that was declared, you just kind of feel the air just getting sucked out of the room. But there was no real air to suck out of here because there's nothing really going on at the moment. And maybe that was really indicative of them being aware that we wouldn't be making any inroads tonight, that there wouldn't be a lot of gain. Maybe that's why we're not seeing a lot of, Conservative supporters partying up, having a good time, celebrating the wins where you can, and, giving us a sense of how they're feeling and where things are going right now. Obviously, the Conservatives not being able to pick up that ground, not changing the political landscape, that means we're going to have to see some changes. A Conservative strategist was saying today that, he thinks that Canadians saw O'Toole as maybe a prime minister in the making. Well, how much more time are you going to give him maybe to make that transition? I don't know if they're going to give it to him.
Do you think he might get a little more of a leash, though, considering he hasn't been the party leader all that long? It's only been a little over a year since he was elected the leader of the Conservative Party. Or do you think the results here tonight are going to lead to a lot of internal debate about if he is the person to lead them forward?
Well, so many of us have been at home watching TV, seeing politicians in our living rooms more than we probably ever have before, and also maybe feeling more connected to the decisions that they're making and how they affect us really personally. We were in front of our screens. We had that time to invest in someone who wanted to lead us. I'm wondering if there was a missed opportunity there, where O'Toole maybe could have been out there showing us how he would lead more. If that was a missed opportunity, was 13 months long enough to, beef up that name recognition? 6 months ago, if we were to walk down the street and say, hey, do you know who the Conservative Party leader is? What would they say in that moment? So maybe next time around, we're going to have to really, hear more from these candidates well in advance, especially since this election was called, 5 weeks ago when, we're in the throes of summer, trying to make the most of it, trying to have the most fun we could have during another pandemic summer, and then you get ready for school. Are people paying attention to what's going on? Did you really just have the last 10 days or so to kind of finally devote that attention maybe that it needed? These might be questions they're asking themselves right now.
Well, Melissa, I certainly hope that you had a good pandemic summer, and hopefully next summer will not be one.
Lots of camping. You try to, get that fun where you can.
Well, hopefully we won't be saying the term pandemic summer again in 2022.
Or pandemic election, We'll see.
It's a word we've used a lot, and I know we're all getting sick of it, but thank you for your time.
You bet. Thanks.
Deb?
All right, thanks so much to Melissa and Adam. You are watching Election 21, the local results here on Rogers TV. The numbers have started coming in, sure and steady now. So we are going to leave you with our number results. Stay with us. It takes about 4.5 minutes for the entire rotation of Durham ridings, so you will just have to wait no more than 4.5 minutes if you're looking for your own particular riding. In the mix there is also the ridings of all the major party leaders. Stay with us. You are watching Election 21, the local results, here on Rogers TV. I'm Debra Hutchison in the Rogers TV studio. It looks like Conservative leader Erin O'Toole has been re-elected as the MP for Durham Riding, but it looks as though he will not become the country's next prime minister. Standing by is Adam Dunphy, who is at the Tribute Community Center, the Conservative Party's election headquarters tonight.
Thanks, Deb. Joined again by Conservative strategist Jason Leder. And Jason, obviously not the night that the Conservatives were looking for. I know this is really early to ask this question, but is there somewhere along the way that you can pinpoint that maybe this turned for you guys?
Well, I mean, listen, the popular vote is basically a toss-up. I think the point is no breakthrough in the 905 or in the 416, and pretty much status quo. So, I think, too early, I think, to say exactly what went right and what went wrong. Good news is O'Toole ran a strong campaign, sort of held what he needed to, couldn't make the kinds of gains he wanted to, and kept Mr. Trudeau from winning a majority. That's the big sort of thing. And I think 6 weeks ago, that was the campaign objective.
So with this obviously disappointment with the results, but from the performance standpoint of Aaron O'Toole as the Conservative leader, will this be enough to ward off any challengers or questions of his leadership?
I think it should be, for sure. I mean, I thought, I was, from an outsider's perspective, I thought his campaign was disciplined. I thought he was smart, and I thought he did a really good job presenting himself to Canadians. I think most of the people in our party think that as well. There's always going to be some naysayers, but the truth is, I think most people expected Mr. Trudeau to steamroll to a majority tonight, a few weeks ago. Holding him to a minority and having a good, solid result, I think that'll be enough.
How much of a role do you think the PPC played tonight in the Conservatives' efforts?
It looks like almost none, to be honest with you. I'm looking, Mr. Bernier was, I think, 3rd or 4th in his own riding. There was not a lot of ridings. There was a couple of ridings that they were saying they had a chance to win in southwestern Ontario, nowhere close. So we'll have to look at the results and really dissect it over the days ahead. It doesn't look like it had a big effect on this campaign.
Jason, once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Deb?
Thanks so much, gentlemen. You are watching Election 21, the local results on Rogers TV. We are going to take you back to the numbers as they continue to get in, to roll in, rather. You'll notice that we have Durham's ridings on a loop, as well as included in there are the leaders' ridings, so you can check in on how the leaders are doing. Stay with us, more to come. This is Election 21, the local results. and welcome back to Election 21, the local results. I'm Debra Hutchison here in the Rogers TV studio. As we watch the numbers come in, we can see that Erin O'Toole once again has been re-elected as the MP for Durham Riding, but the results not as he had hoped overall for the Conservative Party. We are live tonight from the Tribute Community Centre, which has been transformed into the Conservative Party's election headquarters, and our Adam Dunphy is standing by with John O'Toole, former Durham MPP and the father of Erin O'Toole. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Deb. Pleased to be joined by John O'Toole, longtime MPP from the Durham region and also the father of Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, and won plenty of elections. But what's it like to be around your son when he's running for Prime Minister? Unfortunately, didn't get the votes tonight.
Well, I am very proud of Erin and Rebecca, his wife, and their two children, Molly and Jack. They're my son, daughter-in-law, two grandchildren. But all of his brothers and sisters are here tonight, and one from England, recently from Hong Kong, and recently from Italy. So they're all here. We're all in support of Erin. And I know, having run, and I would say that it's very difficult, especially when you have a leader of the government, Mr. Trudeau, so blatantly using the negative stuff on Erin. No one's perfect, including Mr. Trudeau and all his various upsets. But at the end of the day, the people of Canada, it comes down to a needless election, which is going to end up with pretty well the same results. Minority government, $600 million of taxpayers' money, and Mr. Trudeau just loves to spend your money. We had a very strong fiscal plan, and I'm just Erin's father. I'm not part of the organizing group or anything else, but I'm very proud of Erin, his family, their effort they made, and you can't win against someone who doesn't always tell the truth.
Do you think that the Canadian voting population as a whole got enough time to really know your son? He was only elected the leader of the Conservatives last year. Do you think more time to get to know him a little more would have been beneficial for him?
Well, certainly from my perspective, yes, because he was, as you said, very limited time in federal politics, and I would say that Trudeau may have used that, one of the factors in calling an early election, as Erin gained traction. But remember, when he was leader, we were in the COVID thing, the shutdown. He had hardly time to showcase his very talented caucus and members that maybe tonight didn't have victory. And I think Erin should remain as leader. I would encourage him to stay on. The people of Canada need you. Erin is a consensus builder. He learned that at home with, 5 children. He learned it in the military, and he learned it in life. And it just turns out the Liberals ran a fairly negative campaign for the last 2 weeks, and the numbers went south. And you can't blame someone that tried to climb Mount Everest. At least he tried, and I'm very proud of him.
Have you seen him tonight since the results came in?
Just very briefly a few minutes ago. I was with most of his campaign team. I went up to thank his staff because I know some of them and I know how hard they work. The staff around him were nothing but complimentary of the non-negative team that he had. And look, at the end of the day, the people of Canada spoken. Yes, he needed more.
Many times as a candidate, and now, a couple times now as a father. What's harder for you?
Well, harder is so much. Great.
Our thanks to Adam Dunphy and, of course, John O'Toole, father of Erin O'Toole, who was a longtime MPP, Conservative MPP for Durham Riding. We're going to take you back to the numbers now. A reminder that they are on a loop. Durham's ridings, it takes about 4.5 to 5 minutes to loop through all of the riding results. So there you go. Stay with us.